Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to Building Bridges. I am happy to be here with all of you this Tuesday evening. It's a terrific Tuesday evening. Um, Siobhan McDonald, and Siobhan is viewing us from Florida. Siobhan, I had you in thoughts today, this afternoon. Welcome to Building Bridges. William Kozia, good evening. Gail Mingo, Patricia Graves, Andy Goodman, good evening to all of you. Siobhan, I thought of you this evening when I was putting together my notes for this program, and I thought, okay, when I get to my desk, I'm going to message Siobhan because I want her input. It's really, really important that I get Siobhan's input because I've been following you, and I know that you have an interest and you have an expertise that you can contribute in a very significant way on this program. So Siobhan, welcome, and I am looking forward for your comments here this evening. And I see a lot of my builders here with me. Harriet Hall, good evening. Gail, welcome. It's been a long time. Princess Chan, good evening. And Princess is watching us from New Jersey. Isola, did I get the name right? Isola, welcome. Isola Allen. And Miss Coates, Michaela Andrews Coates. Good evening. I'm happy to see you here this evening. Folks, it's a terrific Tuesday evening. I want to say thank you for staying with me. I wasn't able to host Building Bridges last Tuesday, and there's so many things happening, and I'm still getting adjusted. Like when folks ask me, I would say that I'm still getting adjusted to so many things happening. But welcome and thank you for staying with me. Anna Gordon, good evening to you. And Winston Grenada is Winston. Where are you watching us from this evening? Winston is in the US. And Winston, yes, I am happy you're here. Harriet, I know it's cold and wet in Delaware. Oh my goodness. Good evening to you there, and please stay warm. When I am missed on my program, there are a few people who will reach out to me. And that's when you know the kind of love that people share. And that is awesome. And Winston Grenada is one of those persons. He views us from Brooklyn, New York, every Tuesday. He was with us on Monday evenings, and he would give me a heads up when he doesn't see me, and he wants to know what's happening. Lerna Jeffrey, good evening. Welcome, folks. I have to tell you that I would like to take 1 minute, and I want you to do the same thing, or less than a minute, and share the live, because this evening we got some information to share with you. I know it's going to be a program where it is information that you can take in today and you can share it. But importantly, we're going to talk about teenagers, and I've narrowed the scope to teenagers in our schools and our communities, what's happening with us, mental wellness and on our teenagers. And we have an expert who is going to speak with us this evening, a little later in the program. She is Miss Ingrid Goodman. Today is the opening session of the Mental Wellness Conference hosted by the Ministry of Health. It was held at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Today was the opening session. Unfortunately, I promised Miss Goodman that I'll go there because she was presenting a paper there today, and I wanted to get firsthand. I wanted to share in that conference, but unfortunately, I had an emergency this morning and I couldn't attend. But I promised to be there tomorrow, It's interesting, and you know me, anything where you can learn, it doesn't matter where, find yourself there and get a space, learn and make the difference in your community. I see the Honorable Coretta McDonald, the Shadow Minister of Labor, is with us this evening. Thank you, Miss McDonald, and thank you, Siobhan, for sharing the live. Listen, entrance fee is free, but you cannot come in free and don't share the live stream. So share it and let me know that you have shared, like Siobhan. You know, Siobhan is probably a teacher. Siobhan, tell us what you do. But she's very obedient, you know. She comes in, she knows that she has to share the live. She shared the live and she reported that she shared the live. Welcome, Miss Bernadette James. Gail Mingo, I need to know if you share the live. Come on, folks. Share the live. Let's ensure that there are persons who are benefiting from this program here this evening. We have a very good program. We have a lot of information to share with you. And I pray to God that there are teenagers. I've invited a lot of teenagers to come on to the program this evening, because I want them to get the information and to share it with them. You know, our teens, they have been very quiet for a long time. I'm not sure who is taking care of them at a community level, but I know that their parents are struggling with them. Folks, share the live stream as we get started this evening. My sister Joan Ramasindo, good evening. She says, good night. I did share with the groups in my community. Happy to hear. Cheryl, good evening. Patricia, good evening. Please share the live stream. Miss Marna Stoby, she's joining us from Port Kaituma. I am so happy that somebody from Port Kaituma is here with us. Good evening, folks. Tell us where you're joining us from. And Marina White says, good night and blessings. All keep the good work. Well, thank you very much. And Ovetta David, did I get that name right? Good evening. Share the live, please. Folks, let's get started with building bridges this evening. Before I get into any discussion, I want to say a sincere condolences to the family and friends of Dharmini Prasad. Dharmini was a teacher at Line Path Secondary, Skeldon Line Path Secondary School in Region 6. Dharmini reported for duty. She complained of feeling unwell. She collapsed as she was taken to the hospital, and it is reported that she died at the hospital. Folks, Dharmini was one of our teachers that had a bright future in front of her. If you look at that photograph, I cannot imagine that she turned up for work, complained of feeling unwell, collapsed, and subsequently died. That breaks my heart. But you know, I know a few of the teachers at Line Path Secondary, and to that family, to the family at Line Path Secondary, I sincerely hope that you folks will be able to mourn, to grieve the loss of your loved one. I've said to many persons that Line Path Secondary is a family. Like many other schools, they are a family and they grieve just like the immediate family of the deceased. And so, folks, when we lose someone, whether it is at home or in the community, it takes a toll on each one of us. It does. And it just goes to show how we should care for each other, because life is uncertain. And there isn't much more than I can say. And we need to treat each other better while we're alive and not wait until one of us die to say good things about that person. I've never met Dharmini, but I would have liked to. And folks, I say to our teachers, you know, we lost a lot of teachers during COVID. We lost a lot of teachers during COVID, and we're moving on in the education system as if nothing happened, and everything is okay, and we keep going on, right? But the question is, and I know the Honorable Coretta MacDonald is viewing us, the General Secretary of the Ghana Teachers Union, and I'm happy you're here with us, Ms. MacDonald. The question is there any system in place for the social welfare of our teachers? Tonight, I'm not going to be hard on anybody. It is not my intention to be hard on anybody. But we have to ask the questions, and we have to ask the hard questions. People may not like it, but we have to ask those questions because we deserve answers. Is there any system in place for the social welfare of our teachers? Very often we beat down on the teachers when they don't deliver, and it is our best go-to mechanism to condemn, to terrorize, to target, to insult, to shame. We do that to our teachers. But if you know the struggle as an individual, if you know the struggle that those teachers, male and female, if you know the struggles that they go through every single day to pull themselves together, put their thoughts together, and go out to school, teaching is a special job. And I have a different kind of love for teachers. And I would say to them publicly, continue the struggle. And when they mess up, and when I say mess up, it's really bad, like when you interfere with the children, I call you out. And when you do good, I give you all the accolades that you deserve. Today, we mourn the passing of our sister at Line Path Secondary. Folks, my condolences, my sincere condolences to all of you there in Region 6. And I hope we would be able to talk with the teachers. That's something else I wanted to talk about. Ms. MacDonald is saying that teachers work themselves out, no recognition, but are left in the wilderness many times. She also said that there is no welfare system. It is really, really hard, she said. She is the fifth teacher who would have reported for duty, complained of feeling unwell, and has died. Just the top of my mind, and that is the General Secretary of the Ghana Teachers Union. So you don't have to ask if that information is accurate. It is absolutely accurate, right? And we have to ask ourselves. Ms. Prashad is the fifth teacher. Let us go back to the four teachers who died and find out what was the role in the Ministry of Education in ensuring that the teachers of those schools are given some form of psychosocial support. I wouldn't even ask if the families were given psychosocial support, right? Because worse than that has happened. And nobody will go and talk to the family. And worse, after the funeral, we go on as normal, right? Well, let me tell you something. Mr. Rahman, we're not going to allow you to disturb our program. Wa alaikum salam. May Allah have mercy on you. Mr. Wang, good evening. Jamal, assalamu alaikum. Ms. MacDonald says, parents abuse, assault, and intimidate them all the time. Our teachers are subject to those kinds of conditions. My sincere condolences go out to the parents, family, and friends of Ms. Prashad. Folks, let's move on from there. It's something to think about, right? It's something to think about. This evening, we want to talk about mental wellness and our teenagers. But before we get to the program itself, let me bring up my notes. So I want to be really clear on this issue. I want to tell you about a young male student of South Rumvelt Secondary School. Folks, this is a regular day in a student's life. I think it was somewhere the 6th of October. We've passed the 6th of November. Two students in class had a difference. They had a little altercation. And the teachers thought that they will speak to the students and send them home. That was not the end of that matter. And I'm looking for some of the photographs. Let me show you. This is the male student, one of the students who was involved in that matter. The young lady who is a student also in the matter went home, got an adult complained to, and the adult came back to the school. She pointed out who her classmate is, and the adult dealt severe blows on this grade 7 student. That student was punched to the face several times by a relative of the classmate whom he had a difference with. Let me fast forward. It's been more than a month. Let me tell you what has happened. The head teacher would have referred the matter to the Ministry of Education Welfare Department. Subsequent to that report, the parents inquired what is happening. Of course, the mother has to take responsibility for her child. So in going to the hospital, ensuring that he has medical attention, because you can see from these photographs, this is some serious blows that was dealt to this child in his face. A report was made at the South Rumvelt outpost. Folks, my investigation showed that the Ministry of Education transferred the other student from that school to another school. And that was the end of the matter from the Ministry of Education. Other than the report that was made at the South Rumvelt Police Outpost, nothing happened. So the police took no action. I called today to find out, and nobody seemed to know that a report was made. Nobody seemed to have an update to give me. Nothing happened. And this mother is left out in the cold. No word from the school, no word from the Ministry of Education. As far as they're concerned, this matter is dealt with because they transferred the problem to another school. This is what is happening in our schools, and not far from where we are. This is Georgetown. This is not in the hinterland. This is in Georgetown, South Rumvelt Secondary School. Folks, I am not sure that this child would have had any opportunity at counseling. Is it that we want this child to understand that this is how we resolve conflict? Because this is a child. Grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. Somewhere between 12 and 14. That's a child. Is that what we're trying to teach that child? This is how we resolve issues? I am absolutely sure that more could have been done from the Ministry of Education. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not here to beat anybody, but you know what? We have to bring the information to you folks. And at some point, you will decide enough is enough. I have decided that enough is enough already. And when you folks start to speak out, I remember seeing this matter on Facebook. The mother posted all these pictures. She is making a call, a public call for justice for her son. You know, nothing has happened in a whole month. It's going to be a month and a half. Not from the police. And the Ministry of Education transferred the problem. No counseling, in my opinion. Both students should have been exposed to at least 6 weeks, a first 6-week session, and see where that takes them. They can't grow up understanding that this is how we resolve conflicts. We can't allow this to happen, folks. But you know, in this country, remember Taida's a South Rumville issue? South Rumville, Georgetown. In this country, different folks, different strokes. In the meantime, still on the school system. In the meantime, it is alleged, hear me good, it is alleged that the daughter of a judge and another student had a similar scenario, a disagreement in a classroom, in a city school in Georgetown, right? In our city school in Georgetown. The daughter of a judge, and I haven't been able to ascertain who is the other child or who the parents of the other child. I haven't been able to ascertain that as yet, but I will continue to investigate. Let me tell you what happened. The two of them had a disagreement in class. Teacher called them, listened to them, cautioned them, asked them to apologize to each other, and return to class. Shortly after that, the judge called the teacher. You understand what's going on there? The judge called the teacher and accused the teacher of being incompetent because the teacher asked his child to apologize. The teacher is incompetent. He went on to threaten the teacher. He will have her removed from her office. Folks, this is Guyana. Folks, this is Georgetown, where the Ministry of Education head office is, just a few blocks away. This has happened. But the story didn't end there. It is alleged that the judge turned up at the school with a senior officer from the crimes unit. Y'all understand what's going on? This is a powerhouse judge. I can tell you that we have system in place for parents to go into school, right? You don't just turn up there. Worse yet, this is a matter. It goes to show what is happening in our schools. But let me tell you the story. The judge turned up at this prestigious school with a senior officer from Major Crimes Unit, it is alleged. The head teacher could not see the judge because she was scheduled to be in another meeting with senior education officials. So he just turned up impromptu and demand the attention of the head teacher, like she had nothing else to do, right? Or he's the president. When the head teacher could not deal with the judge and this senior officer from Major Crimes Unit, it is alleged that she asked the deputy head teacher to deal with the matter. And they were not happy about that. They called the DHM a liar. And it is alleged that the senior officer attempted to hit the DHM. Folks, students were nearby and they witnessed, they heard, they saw what happened in that school building. Y'all know this happened a couple days ago, right? In Georgetown, couple blocks away from the Minister of Education office. You see any of that on newsroom? No, no. You wouldn't see that on newsroom. And folks, you have to decide when enough is enough. That school is governed by a board of directors. And I can tell you from my investigation that all of the senior officers who are supposed to know about this matter, they know about it. A few of them were present. Y'all want to tell me that the Minister of Education don't know about this matter? Involving a judge? Involving a senior police officer attempting to hit a deputy head teacher? And the female police had to jump in? Y'all want to tell me what that is? I said earlier in the program that I ain't come to put nobody down today. But that's lawlessness. It is lawlessness. And let me tell you something. We can't turn up in the judge court without an appointment, without a date. We can't turn up in he court and want talk to he. But you know, like I said, in this country, different folks, different strokes. You know, there's a reason for everything. We gonna hear about that matter. I have a little bit more investigation to do. And as soon as that matter, the Ministry of Education releases any information, we will bring it to you. We will bring that information to you because that is lawlessness in our schools. And we cannot go on to condone that. That particular judge, you can't go in his court and do nonsense. You know, but folks, different strokes. This mother of this child in South Cromwell is still waiting on the police to tell her that the person who beat her child like that is charged and before the court. The other one at QC, the senior police from crimes unit, is at the school to harass, to abuse, to assault women in our education system. You know, too much is happening in this country, and we have to just allow it. Not here. We will continue to highlight these issues. We will continue. It has to stop. The lawlessness has to stop, and it has to stop by the leaders of this country. It has to stop. But folks, we talk about the abuse of women. We talk about the abuse of women in the school system by police officers. That has to stop. That's lawlessness. Let me say to you that outside of my parliamentary work, well, I'm suspended, right? I have been suspended since the month of July, but that does not stop me from fulfilling my mandate. I have given a commitment to the people who elected me, and I will continue to do that work. Whether the PPP thinks that I should be in parliament or not, I will continue to do my work. So folks, I was in Region 10 a few days ago. I think it was last week, Thursday. I was in Region 10 and we had a very informative session with parents and teachers of Pine Street Nursery in Linden. Folks, our session was as a result of the teacher, the head teacher, recognizing that her parents and teachers need to have pertinent information on domestic violence. And we spent a long time, about 3 hours, just having a conversation about domestic violence. Folks, the stories that came out of this particular session is frightening. I have not been able to verify as yet. I have written on the matter to the regional authorities and the minister, and I'm waiting a response. It is alleged that there is absolutely no help in Linden or Region 10 itself for women who are abused. So there is no safe home, there is no referral, there is no counseling, there's absolutely nothing. I wanted to get a comment from the police, but that is not forthcoming because the police has a role to play in domestic violence when it's reported. And so that is not forthcoming either. But I will not give up. You know, these women, I can tell you that they are strong women. The stories I've heard, and I can tell you that we spoke at length about being our sisters' keepers. They understand. When they share the stories, they understand what it is to be their sister's keeper. But they're saying to us, Miss Lewis, we now feel empowered. We have more information. Now it is time for us to take action. But when we take action, where do we go? Who do we go to? You know? And those are very important questions. There are women who are willing to make the effort, folks. Not many of us. Not many of us want to make an effort. When we see our neighbors involved in conflict and it's abusive, and you can hear your neighbor screaming, some of us close the window. That's not my business. It is your business. It is your business. Too many of our women are being abused. Too many of our women are being killed. I just told you about the senior officer and the judge in that senior secondary school. That is abuse. And I told you at the beginning that teachers are special. It is not an easy job to go to school every single day and have to deal with those children. It is not an easy job. And folks, you know this is November. And I've always said I believe that November belongs to women. While we celebrate Mother's Day in May, and we celebrate another day in March for women, I believe November is for women. And so let me show you the other slide. I want to say that in November, the 25th of November is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This year, today is the 15th of November, and we have 10 more days to begin. I think that's a 10 days initiative. And the activism begins on the 25th, and it concludes, I think, a few days into December. I don't have the exact date. And this year, I am very, very happy to say to you that the women in Mocha Arcadia, they are planning a lot to do. I know that there are a group of women in New Amsterdam, and this same group of women in Linden will be involved. Folks, we have to make the effort to ensure that our women are taken care of. Violence against women is a zero policy ages. But it has still been happening. And what do we do? Some of us blame the women. And when we examine issues in domestic violence, like we did in Linden, and I was highlighting some of the reasons why women stay, all of them, all of those women, they know exactly what I was talking about. And poverty is the number one issue. When a woman can say to you, I will leave, but where would I go? Like in Linden, there's so many of them want to report the abuse. They want to leave. They don't have a job. They have children, little children. Where will they go? And so that's some of the things that we have to address. Folks, I want to share one little bit of information with you before we go. We are currently looking at ways and means in which we can provide support for domestic violence victims. And don't assume that when you send them to the government that they will get help. Many cases they don't get help. There are women, and I've met one lady who walked away. She now lives in Mocha, Arcadia. She is disabled. She lives by herself with her two sons. She's in a wheelchair and she needs help. Because she's in a wheelchair and she doesn't have daughters, the sons, they have to take care of her physically, like everything. And so she's asking if we can find support for her to build washroom facility for her in her flat. She has a makeshift house, but she wants the washroom facility there where she can go from the wheelchair into the bathroom. Folks, any of you are in a position to help, please let me know. I will forward her information to you, and so we can make a difference. I will say to you that the young lady, she approached the government, and the government told her because she is on squatting land, they cannot assist her. That is the caring PPP government for you. They said that. Ministry of Human Services said that to her because that was the first thing I said to her. You're disabled. You're entitled to disability benefits, and you should have some help for your boys, at least the little one. And she said she approached the ministry, and the ministry told her because her shack is on government land, they cannot help her. Now, folks, tell me, if you're a caring government, I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't tell me the truth because she has gone at pains to explain her whole story to me. What if you're a caring government? Wouldn't you find a way to regularize that woman's situation, her housing situation? Wouldn't you find a way to give her a washroom, for God's sakes, a washroom? But folks, this is Guyana. Different folks, different strokes. Let me see if our guest for this evening is ready. We are talking about mental wellness and our teenagers. Folks, we have had Miss Ingrid Goodman, who would have been our guest before on Building Bridges. She has a master's in social work and recently presented a paper today at the Mental Wellness Conference. Operator, if Miss Goodman is there, just let me know. We can have her come in at this time. Folks, I want to share while Miss Goodman is making her way in. I know she had an engagement right at the center, and she was hurrying to get to her desk so she can join us at 6:30. She has asked me for some time to get in. But folks, let me continue taking you along until Miss Goodman comes in. I got a sense that they are young people, and I was talking to a lot of young people on the issue of mental wellness. I wanted to have their feedback, what they understand, and what is really happening with them. And so one teenager said to me, Miss, I hear the APNU AFC calling for a clean voters list. You know, just like that. I was so surprised. This is a grade 8 student. I was so surprised. Miss, what do you mean a clean voters list? Folks, I was so happy for that engagement because a lot of people think that young people are not interested in what's happening in this country. But I have to tell you, that's not true. That is not true. When I got that question, I reached out to our shadow minister of local government and I said, this is what is happening. And I can give this child an explanation. I did attempt an explanation about the irregularities and so on, how that came about. And I think my explanation was a bit too confusing for that child at that level. And this is what Ganesh said to me, Honorable Ganesh Maipal. He said to me, Natasha, please explain to the young people, these teenagers especially, because they will be coming up to vote soon and they should know what is happening. A clean voters list is a list of names of people who are eligible to vote in elections. That's as simple as it gets. People who are eligible to vote in elections, and in Guyana, we're talking about Guyanese. The names on the list must be people who are eligible to be on the list, and that means that the people must be alive and citizens of Guyana who are 18 years and older. Currently, the list that exists is not clean because a lot of people who are dead are on the voters list. It's as simple as that. When we asked for a clean voters list, and he asked me, he said, Miss, I've heard about a new voters list. And then I've heard you talk about a clean voters list. And other people are talking about a clean voters list. I said, listen, we want a clean voters list because there is a list that currently exists and there are people who are dead and still on the list. And in the 2020 elections, all those dead people voted. And that was a big laugh, right? But Miss, how is that possible? I said, yes. And that's why we had the recount and we opened all the boxes on the east coast of Demerara in Region 4. And we saw some of those same dead people. We saw that they voted in the general and regional elections in 2020. It is really amazing to have conversations with young people. It's really amazing. Let me say to you folks that when we are doing stuff in our communities, we ought to make a special effort to engage our young people. Engage them. Just have a regular conversation. How you doing? How was school? What's going on at school? And you will hear. Ask them about current affairs. I am sure, like they had me at one of these senior secondary schools, they had me for like about an hour and 15 minutes grilling me on all these. I was so surprised, that because they showed an interest in politics. Of course, they asked me about wearing my hijab and being in politics, if that is not wrong. I was, taken back by that one, but that took me a little while to explain too. So, folks, take it from me, a very simple thing: engage the young people. It was a pleasure for me to explain what a clean vote is. It's as simple as it is. It was a question in one of those young people's mind, and we take for granted so many things in these young people. Folks, I'd like to bring Miss Goodman in. I believe she is in the studio here with us this evening. Good evening, Miss Goodman.
Greetings, and Natasha, my apology, my sincere apology. I was at the event at the Chong Convention Center this afternoon and got caught up in traffic. So here I am. My apologies, but I'm listening to you talking about those teenagers. Who's
Yes,
connecting with them? Natasha, with the short time left, all I wanted to say is we have a ownership, a responsibility to teach the young early what we learn late.
that is absolutely true. Miss Goodman, I want to say congratulations on your role today in the conference. Give us
Thank
a
you.
little, a short, a little bit of your presentation today before we get to talk about teenagers and their wellness.
Well, basically, Natasha, my work in the community has been on community violence. That's a big one for me. So, for the past 11 years, I have been doing research single handedly in Guyana on community violence. And of course, that involves a lot of our youth. And I had the opportunity today for the very first time to share some of my findings with the wider community. And there was no better forum to share it with than today at the mental health forum. So I was able to share. And one of the things I can say that came out of the presentation over the 10 years that I've been at the community level, inside the community working, that violence is at the core of everything. And 40% of the parents are complaining about the behavior of 60% of the children in our study. So that kind of struck me. And 80% of the people who are complaining are women. So, for one thing, we have parents who cannot manage the children in the home. So,
Yes.
as you're speaking about children in the community environment, there must be a breakdown before these children reach the community of school. So, we need to look at what's happening in the community of the home, the extended family. And here I hold the religious community at bay because in the early life of children, they play a critical role. You find children are attending a lot of these, religious buildings early in life, but yet we see the level of violence that we see with young people. We have a lot of young mothers who did not have any guidance, who may have been abandoned by the previous generation. And so they're now responsible for the next generation. They don't have any guidance. So the children don't have any guidance. So when we look at the level of violence across the community, we must go beyond the schoolhouse. What's happening before those children start going to daycare and nursery school? You see, so we are in a violent world. We are in a violent society. And violence is attractive. Violence is romantic. So as we approach this and we're speaking about, looking for solutions, this is a societal, this is a social problem, and
Yeah.
this is everybody's business.
I know that's absolutely true. This is everybody's business. But you would have heard me talk about a judge and a senior police going into school um, because they are dissatisfied with how the teacher would have handled the matter, and children witness that. And I see somebody said out front parts, it's traumatizing for our children to witness that kind of behavior. Ms. Goodman, I want to ask you, as we go into the conversation of mental wellness and our teenagers, what are some of the triggers that we see in young people that tells us that everything is not okay?
Well, first of all, before I answer that,
Yeah.
What you're seeing with the judge and the policeman is not new. That's a
Mm.
learned behavior. And anytime you see a behavior, Natasha, that's because they were successful with that behavior in the past and they could repeat it again. I witnessed as a school, a secondary school in Georgetown, about 5 years ago, there was an incident between two students, and the police came into the school with their guns drawn.
Wow.
And there were some parents there with children. Children, we were talking 4, 5, 6 years old that they had to pick up. And
Yeah.
I even got shots, pictures of the children watching the police with the weapon. So you're talking about children becoming comfortable with this type of behavior. So when you have a judge again who is sitting there on the bench to show you how everybody needs training, these people are
Yeah.
members of a society and they are also part of the problem, not part of the solution. And we should be solution focused. So now, when we look at the problems of teenagers and what they're presenting with, the biggest disconnect is that the next generation, their parents, they have nobody to talk to, nobody to listen to. The home is dysfunctional. The children are looking for directions. When you find situations, Natasha, where the children are more intelligent than the parents, more intelligent than the police officers who are coming to their rescues, more intelligent than the magistrates who are sitting on the bench, we got a problem.
Yeah.
I say kudos to our young people because they have recognized that they're being guided by a generation of fools. That's the bottom line. We're not handling this situation very well. We have dropped the ball. So we are now looking at these teenagers who have to fend for themselves. Then we are wondering what's going wrong. The problem is not the children. The problem is the adults surrounding the children who fail to manage the children at a very early age.
Yes.
They're cute when they're misbehaving. So when they grow up and they're looking for answers, the parents are busy caught up in themselves. Where do you think the police comes from? No disrespect to the police service. There's some good men in the police service. There's some good women. But we've got a broken system. And
Yeah.
if we have a broken system, we do not start fixing it with the children who are at the top of the pyramid. We begin to fix it with the root of the tree. Those parents, those adults, we are all held accountable. That's the
Absolutely.
root.
Absolutely. I see Siobhan McDonald said the first thing as parents, we need to teach our children positive coping skills. The second thing we need to do is to educate our teenagers about mental wellness and mental illness. Third thing we need to do
Natasha,
is
sorry to
encourage.
interject.
Go
Sorry
ahead.
to interject. Sorry, Natasha, to interject. Stick a
Go
pin
ahead.
there. We don't need to teach, the parents don't need to teach the children. We need to be teaching the parents. You're
So we
talking
need to
about
go
parents who don't know what to
one
do.
step back.
Yes, we have the wrong approach.
Yeah.
The approach is not teaching the children. The children are okay. We got to deal with teaching those parents who don't know what to do. We have to hold them accountable. We have to educate them. A parent might be 25 years old
Yeah.
chronologically and developmentally maybe 14. So that 25-year-old who developed mentally as a 14-year-old who's now parenting a 7-year-old don't know what to do. You're parenting two children.
Yeah.
So we've got to really look at this model. The model, the children, I have all confidence in our young people. It's
Yeah.
the persons who are left in charge of the young people is the problem. So we've got to get into those communities, we've got to get into those homes, and we've got to get to those parents and give them the skills that they need. They spend more time with the children than we do. They're the ones that stressed out. Imagine the first community a child is exposed to is the community of the womb. And if for 9 months the child is stressed out in the womb, what do you think, what kind of home that child is coming into?
Yeah.
So we need to begin with the parents and hold them accountable at every level. so that when it gets to the school, the job is much easier for our educators. Sorry about that, Natasha, but we need to look at the model.
Absolutely. And the Ministry of Education has an excellent model when they speak about stakeholder engagement. So you have the teachers, you have the parents, you have the students, and you have the community. Now they all interact on a daily basis. They all belong to one community. Now we have seen in quite recent times where some communities are given help and some communities are left to perish on their own, like I've just been mentioning about Region 10 in Linden. Those teachers, they see women in abuse in their communities, and as teachers, people go to them for help. And they're saying to me, but Miss, where are we going to report this thing to? There is no psychosocial setting at the regional level. Um, no disrespect to the regional chairman and his team. I believe that at a central ministry level, the Ministry of Human Services should have had a system set up just like they have in Georgetown. You know, I asked them about the 914 number in Linden. Do you know about that? Miss, I know about it, but while I was living in Georgetown, but I don't know if that works in Linden. That's happening in the minds of those people who are living outside of Georgetown. So
Well,
one
Natasha,
community is benefiting, and the ones that are outside of Georgetown are not benefiting. Our teenagers are speaking out. They need help.
Natasha, I'm so glad you brought up that subject. I have relocated to Region 10. And the
Yes.
only reason I am able to participate in your program this evening is because I am currently in Region 4. I came to Region 4 to participate in the mental health conference. That's going on for the next 3 days at the Otachang Convention Center. As a result, I am here this evening. But let me share this with you, Natasha. Living in sub-region number 2 in Region 10, just I have to operate on data. Just seeing
Just
internet
telling
is a
people that you're in
privilege.
Kokwani. Subregion.
Yes, in Kakwani.
Yes.
Second of all, when I want to send out an email, I have to go to the regional office. The resources I had and the organization has available in Region 4 is not available in Region 10. Speaking about social workers, I, as a practitioner, for years, I have not actually functioned as a social worker here in Guyana because I've left that to the Ministry of Human Service and the Ministry of Education. But since I am in the sub-region, I had to put on my social worker cap and gone and done what I haven't did in like 15 years, social work in the margins. You see, I am at the level of social policy where I do programs, but now I'm having to do that grassroots. I am the only social worker. The social worker would visit the community once every 3 months.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, they love to lie that they went out there and did some work. I'm going to tell it like it is because people are hurting.
Yeah.
I want to know how those riverine communities, how more than 4 or 5,000 people living in the sub-region are surviving in the absence of social welfare services. When I moved into the sub-region to Upper Demerara, I am saying to you, it's like me moving to Suriname. It's like me moving to Cayenne or Barbados. It's a whole new world, a whole new culture. But yet, this is part of Guyana. The luxuries that Region 4, as you were saying, have doesn't exist. You pick up anything and see organizations. Our organizations don't even get listed for the work
Mhm.
that we do, and you're seeing the same ones, especially Child Link. And GRPA, yes, I'm calling your names because you collect all the donor money and you're in region 4 and I don't know what they're reporting. But we have got to get to the level of the community. What
Yeah.
are the people? The people are doing all the things. High school, for example, high school dropout is a serious problem. Information is lacking. People don't know their basic human rights. Educators, imagine the census is going on and the census person is a student in education at UG online, says to me, Miss, I have never heard of a community mental health practitioner, but she teaches at the high school. And I'm shocked. So, education, I can't understand what's going on in this country at that level. I am very, very brutally honest. We can't sugarcoat this thing because people's lives are at stake.
Yeah.
We're talking of a generation or two who is suffering because they're disconnected. Social media, that's their only means of outlet. Music, dancehall, alcohol, smoking. So you ask me what? Those are the things that's driving them.
Yeah.
So, and then you get our leaders coming to the community with nice sweet talk. And listen what the people say, yeah, man, we're gonna take with the giwi because we know the gun half hour later. And kiki and they laugh it off and they go back to the same behavior because they know nothing will be done about their condition.
So,
So
Miss Goodman, I'm very happy that you've used subregion 2 as the example, and you're asking what ChildLink and GRPA is doing. I am gathering from that they have access to resources and should find themselves in subregion 2 to do some work. But let me ask
exactly.
this question. You have been in subregion 2. There are health facilities in subregion 2. The Minister of Health would have tabled a bill in the National Assembly in August of this year. At our last sitting, the mental health bill was passed. It's now an act. In
Mm-hmm,
that in that bill, it said that they will utilize the existing public health structures, which would be the health centers and so on, right? To
mm-hmm,
accommodate the professionals who will now be dealing with mental health issues. Have you
mm-hmm.
seen any sort, a psychiatrist, a psychosocial therapist, anybody in subregion 2 at the medical
No,
facility?
no. And when they do, if anybody do come into the region, you only hear the plane coming and leaving. Then you hear somebody mention, oh, the minister coming. They just hand out some money and the gun. That no, in terms of that, no. No, 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 no. And another note to add on top of that. And it took some time. Yeah, I'm still less than 1 year living in subregion number 2. But in the time that I've been in subregion number 2, you're talking one social worker or welfare officer assigned to visit that area every 3 months to listen to who problem, to listen to what. You see? And I'm saying and the other one blossoming supposed to be looking at the rape in the community. It's every other so often I hear Miss Goodman, so and so child get raped. I don't know what them people doing over there. When you get donor dollars, you should be able to do a decent job and come back and report to Jane and John public, this is what we have done. But they don't exist. Women's Refuge Guyana is down there in the region. We are there, and currently, I am having to look for new persons to train to assist because, again, doing the research, it's a long time since I've had to go into social work mode. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to be doing the ministry's work and have those happy young lady and gentlemen collecting the paycheck.
right.
You see, they need to get out there. So I am now the voice for the voiceless. I shouldn't even say the voiceless, Natasha. The voice of the invisible community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a community that you don't, people will go, where is Kukwani? They're invisible. You're talking over 4,000. That's a good voting block.
Yes.
Resources are not trickling down to the people who need it the most. And resources in this case, I am not talking about no cash handout. I
Mm-hmm.
am talking to address the issues, the social issues that people may be having. And at the bottom of all these mental health issues lies poverty. Your
Absolutely.
poverty is what poverty, malnutrition, obesity, poor health care. These are the issues we must address when we are going to address education. Children that go to school hungry. Biscuit is not a meal.
Yeah.
You
Biscuit
see,
and
giving
juice.
children sugar water to drink is not a meal. And say we're providing them with lunch. So we've got some serious health problem. We're now exposed to the rest of the world. Now all type of people is coming in here looking at us. So what I am saying here tonight is not news because others will be reporting the same thing.
Yeah.
Suicide, I can share with you, that's a problem in the Indo-Guyanese community.
Mm-hmm.
That problem need to be addressed because that community gets quite a bit of resources, like to present themselves as the preferred ethnic group in Guyana, but that's the most violent group when it comes to self harm. So we need to be focusing on what are the issues facing that community, those teenagers in that community that's driving them to self harm. We tend to focus so much, on the other community, the Afro Guyanese community. But in reality, Natasha, we need to focus. Hey, we ain't talking one Guyana. We need to address our issues from an ethnically, cultural responsive perspective
Yeah.
because certain behaviors are more common to one group than the other. One group implodes, the other group explodes. Which group? The Indo-Guyanese, because they're not getting the intervention and the attention they need, they tend to implode. And when they implode, it's self-harm. And the other group, the Afro-Guyanese group, they tend to explode. So you hear all the nice at Stabrook Market, you hear all the nice all over the place, the complaining, the whining and social media. That's their way of what you say releasing. They release all their little issues on social media. But the other group, I don't know, shame plays quite a bit in that community.
Yeah.
So, since shame does not allow them to express how they feel, they implode. So, and we cannot send Afro Guyanese or African Guyanese, what you say, social workers into a community that they are not part of. I took a look, Natasha, at those who have visited me for, and this is part of my presentation from earlier today. Over a 10-year period, almost 60% of the clients that came to see us are clients of African descent. And another 21% were clients of mixed descent who culturally identify themselves as African Guyanese. I asked myself the question, where are my Indian contemporaries? And what are they producing coming out of the population and the clients they serve? We must be brutally honest. We must come to that round table. And as grassroots practitioners, we must present this is what our clients look like. We must be able to share and exchange that information so that we are able to work across Guyana, across ethnic groups, and reach the people who need us the most.
Ms. Goodman, thank you very much for that. I noticed that we've passed program time, but I want to share what this commentator says. Out front parts, mental health has a complex interactive relationship with children's physical health and their ability to succeed in school. And that person narrowed it down to the students in school. But indeed, mental health is a complex issue, and it not just you can look at somebody and say, well, something is wrong with them and this is it. It's a very complex issue to address. Miss Goodman, it has been awesome having you once again. And I do agree it is because you are on the coast, you are able to have steady internet access so you can be with us on Building Bridges. Before you go, I want you to say to our viewers, tell us something about your organization and your contact.
Oh, wonderful. Women's Refuge Guyana. The contact number is 639-5921 or 685-9525. And what we do, I do a lot of training. We do that. You see, training persons at the grassroots level. We do a lot of assessments, but basically we focus on preparing the next generation so that they will know what to do at the grassroots level. That's basically an entrepreneurship training. A lot of it is from a social work perspective, working in client systems. That is where, we try to close in the gap. It's a very small operation I have because the work that we do is so technical. We're a team of 4 or 5 persons at any given time. And having to guide the group all the time myself is that self-care. It's connecting to an academic community internationally because there's a disconnect between the here in Guyana between systems. I'm not blaming any institution or any ministry, university, or anybody. It's just a disconnect, and that disconnect has been there for a long time. So being on the ground as a practitioner, as a technical person, the time has come to share some of that information with the community so they have a better understanding. Natasha, unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to stop, that a lot of the persons who are on the ground do not have the skills that's necessary or the capacity to deal with the issues. So we need more technical persons on the ground. So it's time for us to get to that round table and seriously look at what we're doing. So that's what we do a bit of at Women's Refuge Guyana. I hope that explains it, but that's
Miss
who
Goodman,
we are.
thank you very much. I know you're doing an excellent work. I know you're grounded in your research and you go directly to the source to collect your data and so on. And we're very proud of you for coming on here and sharing your information. I certainly hope to join you at the conference tomorrow. Today I had an emergency and I couldn't come. I had all plans to come and listen to you make your presentation, but I certainly join tomorrow. It's really an interesting, I've looked at the program and it's really an interesting program to be a
Ah,
part of. And so I'll
yes.
see you tomorrow and thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you very much for having me, Natasha. And sorry about the lateness and having to be on the phone. At least technology got us together. In region, listen to this, in region 4
And region
only.
4. All right. Thank you so very
Okay.
much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Folks, good night. Good night, Miss Goodman. I see we have Commissioner Cole, who is on the live here tonight, and she has really given us a little bit of her contribution. She says suicide is also dominant in Barometer, which is an indigenous community in Region 1, and she is absolutely, absolutely correct. She said, so she also said that they are scarce on social worker, insufficient social worker on the ground in communities, too many abuse cases falling through the cracks. She's also absolutely correct. Commissioner Cole, thank you for your engagement this evening. I know you are a child's right activist and you always, always come out to call out on when things are not done right. I thank you for your service, Commissioner Cole. Thank you very much, Ms. Goodman. Folks, this
Yeah.
is our program time for this evening, but I want to bring one good piece of information. I'm trying to look through the comments to see who made that comment. I read it earlier in the evening. I think is Guyanese brown sugar. Guyanese brown sugar is saying they should have social workers in school. They should have social workers in every school. And when I saw that comment, that brought a different thing to my mind. I really can't explain to you. I'm not sure what happened to our operator there just now, but I was saying that Guyanese brown sugar is saying that every school should have a social worker. I agree. And I must say that the Minister of Education has made that announcement quite a while ago. Fast forward to now, what is happening in this new school year, they have decided to employ one social worker per secondary school. And I want to use Region 10, I continue because I have a lot of interest in Region 10. I'll use Mackenzie High School as the example. Mackenzie High School has almost 600 students, if not more. And you are going to put one social worker there at Mackenzie High School, where and Mackenzie is a community where everything we talk about is present. Poverty and all the other things present in Region 10. And you're going to put one social worker, right? So that's a point to note. Secondly, they have employed these people. They have given them their letter I can't remember what's the name of the letter, what's the caption, but it's a letter introducing you to your school and telling you that your employment is on contractual and all of that. So some people who went to interview and got through, they're happy they got the letter, they turned out to school. Guess what? September is finished. They have not received $1. October is finished. They have not received $1. I am finding out that in the mid of November that they have not signed their contract. And so they will not be paid in November. And if they sign their contract by the end of November, by God's mercy, they will have money in December. Now, I remember in the National Assembly, Honorable Sarah Haley, Tabitha, took a motion to say to the National Assembly that public servants should be paid promptly for work. The government made a whole hullabaloo and says nothing is wrong with the process and that they should be paid in reasonable time. And I want to call out Sonia Parag, the Minister of Public Service. I want to call out the Minister of Education. It has been 2 months, soon will be 3 months, and these people are not being paid. There is a second issue on this guidance and counseling. So they're employing social worker with a first degree as guidance and counseling officer. You and I know that that is grossly inadequate for that job. That qualification, given the content of it at the University of Ghana, it is grossly inadequate for guidance and counseling. It might be adequate for other areas, but guidance and counseling is grossly inadequate. On top of that, in Region 6, and I'm calling the region out because I've been to Region 6 and I've had the conversations, I can tell you that people who do not qualify were interviewed, they recognized that they were not qualified, but they were given their letter and they have turned out to schools. What do you think you are doing in the school system? You are compounding the problem in the school system by employing people who are not qualified to do the job. In the first place, those guidance and counseling officers should be specially trained people and not necessarily social workers. But albeit we'll take the social workers because they've had 1 or 2 courses in counseling, and hopefully the entire content can help them to do something at the initial stage. Our education system is in a mess. And we have at the secondary school, we take them in at 12, 13, and we take them up to 17, and at sixth form, they go until 18. This is our teenage years in a formal system. We have all the social issues existing in the prestigious secondary schools too. Let me say that. It's not the secondary schools in the impoverished areas alone that are suffering, because there are different kinds of problems in those senior prestigious secondary schools. And we're going to put one social worker per secondary school. Folks, it is lawless. I said that from the beginning. What happened with that judge and that policeman, with the deputy head teacher and the head teacher of that senior secondary school, that prestigious school, it is lawless. And the lawlessness continues in our school system. I know that the Minister of Education can do better than what is happening right now. I know steps can be taken to ensure that our teachers and our students in the schools are protected. Students are exposed to traumatic situations caused by outsiders, no less than a police, no less than a senior police, no less than a judge, people who you expect to do better, to set the examples. I wish I could have called those two people name here this evening, but they are no role models for our society. They are no role models. And I don't know how that head teacher is feeling at this point in time. I don't know how that deputy head teacher is feeling. You imagine that they have to give guidance to their teachers whom they supervise. And people are allowed to come into the school to assault them. What example are we setting for our students? And I've asked at the beginning of this program, what sort of social welfare program do we have in the school system and within the Ministry of Education to take care of our teachers? Because they're human beings like all of us too. When they leave the school, they go home, they are parents, and they have to do that at home. They have to take care of additional responsibilities. And the general secretary was in the comment section, and she said that they have absolutely no system in place for our teachers, no social welfare system for our teachers. Folks, we are running up. We're 6 minutes to 8 this evening. I am so sorry that we've gone far past our program time, but it was interesting being here. I am happy that I've had Miss Goodman. Miss Schultz, I want to give a couple of people a shout out before we go, because I know 8 o'clock is in the ring and all of you would want to go and get a bathroom break and get your cokes, as Sherrod would say, and your popcorn and throw back for in the ring tonight. Miss Vashi Magnat is viewing us from Canada. Thank you for coming out this evening and being with us. And Pollyann Schultz from Region 6 in New Amsterdam is with us. I've seen some very new viewers, I should say, out front parts. I'm not sure who you are. Message me, let me know. I really like your interaction here this evening. He says 911 and school shootings is an attack and traumatizing for kids. Absolutely. And Guyanese Brown Sugar says, I don't understand why social workers aren't assigned in schools. And we did talk about that. They are, but they're not being paid. And Joan Ramasinda said, listen to a young man saying that the adults are to be blamed because they were not disciplined. They were not disciplined method for them while they were growing up. Folks, we have to be very, very careful. We have a responsibility to take care of our children, and we should do that the best way we know. As parents, we should always seek to educate ourselves so that we can give our children the best kind of guidance that is necessary. Parenting is not an easy job. I can tell you that. I have 2 teenagers that I have to deal with, And sometimes I have to seek help to be a parent to those two teenagers. And I do that. There is absolutely no shame in asking for help when you need help, because you have a responsibility and people will hold you accountable. Folks, it was good being here. I hope to see you guys next Tuesday evening. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Remember, it's a terrific Tuesday. Don't let anybody spoil your Tuesday night. Folks, take care, and I'll see you back here next Tuesday. Have a good evening.